to keep looking for their own thing that somehow clicks. You
Right,
know,
right.
I really, especially for people who are watching and who are suffering, and maybe you're thinking, but I haven't heard the ticket, I haven't heard the one thing. It's because there is never one thing. There
Well,
is the right, there is the
can
reaching
I
out. Yeah, go ahead.
the one thing is a social resource
That's right.
that encompasses whatever that one thing is. You're not
You're
going to get
right.
it by yourself.
Yeah, you are
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
right. That
yeah.
because we're mammals and we are intended to be in groups of people that are supporting one another, both
Well, in
in our
teaching or
yes, yeah,
providing. Yeah.
yeah. And you know, it makes sense to me, Angel, that we're going to see cuts coming in the state. Some were
Oh,
announced yesterday that were devastating. That if people are relying on government programs, on subsidies to save them, they're looking in the wrong direction. We've got to look for these tools amongst ourselves, amongst wise people who have already been through extreme states and know how to get there, and people who are willing to share these tools for free, which is why I love that you're all here, because that's what I'm really passionate about as well. Angel, talk to me about the the arc of someone who comes to intentional peer support, because I'm just always so struck when I speak with you about how positive you are, how giving, how much time you have to be able to educate other people. Were you like that at the beginning of your journey?
Well, thank you. I just want to make a distinction. So Folk Time is the hub, the
Yeah.
U.S. hub for intentional peer support, which is trained, as a curriculum, social change relationship model that's trained in 8 countries. So I just want to make that distinction. And it's not the only curriculum out there. I just feel that it's, for me, in line with changing the world, right? Social change and social justice. So no, I haven't always been positive. I've always had this pretty I had a very challenged life growing up, and I'm also a survivor and have been somebody who's had thoughts, feelings, emotions around suicide since I was a little girl. And I didn't actually share that. I've been in my recovery journey for 24 years, and I didn't actually come out of that closet until about a year and a half ago because of the stigma. And I was worried that people would start to doubt my abilities as an advocate and activist and leader in our consumer survivor ex-patient movement. And so one of the things that I learned very early on in my recovery from addiction journey was that I had very much an ingrained way of thinking that glass is half empty. And surviving on the streets and surviving through years of drug use and substance use, that was a skill for me, but I didn't know. I thought I was a problem. I thought I was broken. And over the years, I've been able to realize that actually is what kept me alive during the time to survive some very traumatic experiences. And maybe hadn't I had that drug use, maybe for me, I wouldn't have been able to mentally stay together through the traumatic experiences of, I had some extreme things happen to me. And so when I got into treatment, I realized that I had a lot of, negative self-talk and negative core belief about myself and who I was and my capabilities. Having an 8th grade education and living on the streets, you think that you're never going to go anywhere, right? And that you're just broken and failed out of school, dropped out, all of those things. And then when I was told, Angel, let's focus on 3 positive things to overcome 1 negative thing, and to reshift the way my brain is processing those thoughts. And so every time I'd have a negative thought, I'd have these positive affirmations and start telling myself, you are lovable, you are smart, you are capable, all the things that I didn't believe I was or could be. And then started conditioning my brain to think differently. And so I put an emphasis into the world today. I go on social media, but my social media isn't to talk about my drama in my life. My social media is my effort to do humanity some positive put something positive into the world. And I just want to rewind a little bit about the worldview perspective that we may talk about. But there's many different avenues of wellness. I don't say mental illness, I say mental wellness, but honoring multiple truths, and that's okay. So for those who don't want to feel pathologized or feel like they have an illness, it's okay to shift the way you think about it from a perspective of, okay, I have some survival skills. My body reacts to trauma differently than someone else, and this is the way I'm living through it today. We can put it in the whole person perspective rather than just one pathway. And I think that's an important message to get out to society, because often people don't want to go to a traditional provider or have the label of ill, mentally ill, or even an addict, right?
Right.
We have addictive personalities, or we become attracted to a substance that helps us survive through some really tough stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so honoring, however you want to define that for you, honoring that you may have a different definition than someone else, and that's the honoring multiple truths. But if we're only making the assumption that we're speaking the same language and that we are understanding one another by a label, then we're not getting to the root or the ingredients of what brought us to that language.
Yeah.
Language creates reality.
I also really love this idea about a worldview, because, we aren't in the same boat through this trauma. Everybody has different kinds of boats. And as far as I can tell, all of us have a boat that has groceries and a mortgage that's paid for. So our boat is a lot steadier than a lot of people who might be listening, and they're worried they do not have money to the end of the week.
Right.
And, what I want to say is that this is a shared trauma for everyone. But because of the difference in our boats, people are having very different experiences. And I want to honor everyone's experience. I mean, I have had days during this where I have been so focused on my friends who I know are single mothers, and they may not have groceries to the end of the week, that I am panic stricken. And I am so concerned for my high risk daughter and my partner. And, but all of my anxiety is something I create, because none of it is right here, right now. Right? Go ahead, Angel.
That's the 4 Ps that we were talking about in the other wellness. When we when we're so conditioned to react, we're reacting out of fear. And the 4 Ps are specifically, we're predicting an outcome. When we're feeling afraid, we start to predict, and then we start to pry into whatever, and then we start to prescribe what we should do or what others should be doing to avoid the prediction, which creates a power dynamic or a power over. And that could be internal or external. And that's a pattern. That's a reaction equals pattern. If we can be aware of when we're doing that, we can stop that process and say, and name it. Oh my gosh, I'm totally doing the 4 Ps and I'm reacting, right?
Yeah.
And how do I now learn to respond, which is freedom, because it opens up all hope and possibilities. And figuring that together, it doesn't negate the fact that we're afraid. Yeah, a lot of us are freaking terrified. And a lot of us are so numb that we don't know we're terrified, but we default to those positions. I have a lot of friends that I'm just like, oh, snap, they've called me and said, wow, Angel, how are you dealing with this? Because you're not so used to being like confined and alone. And I've broken down in tears, like, this is so freaking uncomfortable. And my trauma reaction is to default to suicidal thoughts or it's a progressive of trauma reaction. And to know that with hope, rather than being afraid that that's an indicator that maybe I need to go inward and find balance of mind, body, spirit, that's how I find the hope.